Hi, dear students. Today we are going to discuss about the internal audit. We know that the internal audit is same in to a certain extent as of external audit. Actually, it is an independent appraisal of activities that within an organization for the review of the accounting, financial, and other business practices. And it is the review of operations and also the procedures and records of a company by the team of expert, and that expert will be the staff of the company. Okay, actually it is an auditing done by the staff itself, or we are conducting the auditing by using our own staff. Okay, actually in the external audit, that chartered accountant is not a staff of the company, but in the internal audit, um, the staff itself is conducting the audit. Okay, so regarding the definition, according to the uh, Internal Auditors Corporation, New York, they define the internal audit as it is an independent appraisal activity within an organization for the review of first one accounting, financial, and other operations as a basis for service to the management. Okay, so as per this definition, we can see that it is a it is an appraisal of the activity, or we say that is an audit that conducts within an organization. As we already mentioned, here the auditing is done by the staff itself. Why we are conducting that auditing? It is for the review of accounting, financial, and other operation as a basis for service to the management. Okay, so we can say that this is an independent appraisal activity that conducting within an organization and by the staff itself, and that activity is known as internal audit. Okay, so or we can say that it is the internal audit consists of a continuous and critical review of financial and operating activities which are to be conducted by or which are to be done by the staff of auditors, which is functioning as a full-time employees of the organization. Okay, so this is the internal audit. And second point is that what are the various features of this internal audit? First of all, the internal audit is mainly conducted to measure and evaluate the effectiveness of other types of controls. In an organization, we have so many types of controls. Um, there are so many types of controls with regard to stock, with regard to HR, with regard to finance, etc. In internal auditing, what we are doing is that it is a type of control which functions by measuring and evaluating the effectiveness of other types of control. Okay, so we are evaluating the controls, or we are evaluating the other type of controls which are ensured in the company. And second one, it is performed by the staff of auditors functioning as full-time employees, or we can say that it is performed by full employees. Actually, the here the internal auditor is from the role of the company, or they are the full-time salaried employees. And third one, it is an audit of accounts by the employees of company which may or may not possess the professional and audit qualifications. So here these employees may or may not have professional audit qualifications, because there is no restrictions on there is no rules regarding there are no prescribed rules regarding the qualification of the internal auditors. They may be the MCOM graduates or commerce graduates, they may be the IPCC students, or they may be the MBA professionals. Any those who have a PG or UG with regard to commerce may appointed as the internal audit. Here, the main point is that actually they are measuring and evaluating the effectiveness of other types of control. Okay. And next one, what are the various objectives of this internal audit? First one, to comment on the effectiveness of ICC. ICC means internal control system. In the features, in the first feature, we have seen that mainly the internal auditor is mainly for measuring and evaluating the effectiveness of other types of control. So the first objective is also same like that, to comment on the effectiveness of internal control system. Okay. And second one, to verify accuracy and authenticity of the accounting records by the employees itself. Okay. And third one, it is for the prevention and early detection of frauds and errors. So if a company is audited by the internal staff itself, they can easily identify, or they can early identify the frauds and errors. And otherwise, if we employ or if we conduct the auditing at the end of the accounting period, it may take so many time, or it may take much time for finding out, detecting the this errors and frauds. And next one, to ensure that the standarding accounting practices are followed. This must be ensured while we are processing the accounts, or otherwise it will take much time and to know whether the accounting practices are enforced in the organization. So if we find that the standard accounting practices are not followed at the end of the accounting period, it will be a Herculean task to reframe the accounts as per the standard accounting practices. Next one, to ensure the proper safeguarding of assets. The assets are properly safeguarded. And next one, to suggest the ways to improve the weak areas. As per the internal auditing team, they are the employees of the organization, so they know much about the organization. So their suggestions will help to the improvement of weak areas, and to ensure that the acquisition and disposal of assets are under the proper authority. This must be ensured, and this is ensured mainly through the internal auditing system. And also to ensure that the liabilities incurred are valid and legitimate. Actually, the last 2 points, that the acquisition and disposal of assets and the liabilities incurred are valid and legitimate, that 2 points are correlated, because window dressing is not allowed in an accounting. So in order to counter such in order to counter such movements, we counter the window dressing, these 2 points must be ensured while preparing the financial accounts. Okay, so these are the objectives of internal audit. And next, what are the various advantages of internal audit? Actually, these are the points which we covered in the objective when we described about the objectives. The first of all, it ensures the prevention of frauds and errors. And next one, early detection of the frauds and errors. And internal auditing mainly tests the accuracy, completeness, and reliability of the accounting information, because it is very important, because through the accounts, what the external party is evaluating the company. So the accuracy, completeness, and reliability of the account should be ensured before it being publicized to the company. Okay. Then next one, it bring out the inherent weakness and inefficiencies, because these are done by the internal staff itself. So we can easily bring out the weakness and also the inefficiencies. And also it offers the suggestions for the improvement in the productivity and profitability. Okay, so when we identify the inherent weakness and inefficiencies, we can improve the productivity and also the profitability. And by regularly conducting the internal audit, this will help in the early completion of the annual report. Okay, and the last one is internal audit provide the assistance to the statutory audit, because if we have a well framed internal auditing system, it will be a great help to the statutory auditor, because its half job is done by the internal auditors. Okay, so these are the various advantages of internal audit. And next one, what are the various disadvantages of internal audit? Actually, it's a high cost operation, because we want to pay for the internal audit as well as we want to pay for the external audit. And in order to set up an internal auditing system, we want to procure additional employees. Okay, So this the cost of setting up the internal auditing is very high. And next one, this is the inefficiency of internal audit staff will render the system very ineffective. If our selection is not good, it will affect the internal auditing system. Then C, the internal staff actually is working under the directions of the management. So there is a possibility of distortion of financial figures influenced by the management may misguide the users of financial statements. Okay, actually this is the salary of the internal auditors is given by the management. So based on the management opinion, they may arrange the figures, or there may be a chance of arranging the figures according to the directions of the management. Okay, so it will misguide the users of the financial statement, or the users cannot identify the real position of the cannot identify the real profit of the real financial position of the particular company. Okay, and there is no prescribed qualification for the appointment of internal auditor. So it's a major disadvantages, because a less qualified and inefficient persons may get appointed, and their views on the accounting may be wrong, and it will cause a high damage to the company. Okay, so these are the four disadvantages of the company, disadvantage of the internal auditing. And next one, the internal auditor versus independent auditor. We know that both the internal auditor as well as the independent auditor have a common interest, that is to ensure the effectiveness of efficiency of the internal check system. Okay, so that goal is same, and actually this is necessary for detecting the and preventing the errors and frauds at early as possible. And here there are some 10 differences between the internal auditor and independent auditor. The first one, the internal auditor is appointed by the management itself. Okay, but the independent auditor is appointed by the shareholders or by the government. If it is a government company, and if it is a public sector company, it is appointed by the shareholders. But the internal auditor is appointed by the management. Employee, actually, the internal auditor is an regular paid employee of the company. That is why we are calling them as internal auditor. And here the independent auditor is not an employee of the company. And regarding the status, the internal auditor does not enjoy the independent status, but independent auditor is quite independent of the management. Okay, actually he is from the shareholder side. And regarding the qualifications, we know that the internal auditor doesn't have a does may or may not have the professional qualification, but the independent auditor must have professional qualifications as per the Companies Act. And the scope of the internal auditor regarding the audit work is determined by the management, because he is working under the management. But regarding the independent auditor, the scope of work and liability is actually laid down by the statute, or he is working as per the Companies Act. The internal auditor approaches his work with a view to ensure that the accounting information presented to the management is accurate. But regarding the independent auditor, he approaches his work with a view to ensure the shareholders that the financial statements show a true and fair view of the company. One is accountable to the management, and other, the independent auditor, is accountable to the shareholders. Okay, and seventh one, regarding the responsibility, the internal auditor is responsible to the management, and independent auditor is responsible to the shareholders or government. Watchdog, he is the watchdog. Independent auditor is the watchdog for the management, and here the watchdog for the shareholders. And regarding the procedure, the internal auditor carries a detailed checking of all accounts and books. And regarding the independent auditor, he does not carry a detailed checking, but adheres to the test checking, because the independent auditor independent auditor will not get much time to audit all the accounts, but here the internal auditor will carries a detailed checking of all accounts of books, and the independent auditor conducts only a test checking of various, or he will take the accounts on a sample basis. Okay, And internal auditor carries out its works continuously and throughout the year. Okay, but regarding the independent auditor, he carries his work periodically and after the end of the financial year. Okay, so these are the differences between internal auditor and the independent auditor. And one more differences, that is the difference between the internal check, internal control, and internal audit. When we hear these three terms are they are used in a same meaning, or these are commonly used in auditing. The differences between these three are discussed in this slide. The first one is what you mean by the internal check. Actually, it means the arrangement of work in such a way that the work done by one person is automatically checked by other person. But in internal control, it means the whole system of controls established by the management in the conduct of business. Okay, so internal check, it is a work arrangement, but internal control means it is the collection of whole system of controls established by the management in the conduct of business. And third one, internal audit, it is the examination of operations of a concern by the employees itself. And second point is that the scope of internal check is actually limited, because one the activity done by the one person is inspected by the or checked by the other. So the scope of internal audit is very limited, and internal control, it is very wide. And regarding the internal audit, it is comparatively broad. Okay, and third one, the internal check is the part of internal control. It is the part of internal control. And internal control means it includes which one? This internal check, internal audit, and all other forms of control, because it is a whole system of controls. And internal audit is also the part of internal control. The internal check, its aim is to prevention of errors and fraud. Then regarding the internal control, its aim is both detection and the prevention of errors and fraud. And internal audit, it is the aim. The aim of internal audit is detection of errors and frauds early as possible. So um, the aim of both internal check and internal audit are same. Fifth one, it is a device for doing the work. And internal, regarding the internal control, actually it is a device for both doing the work and also checking the work. Okay, and here also internal audit, it is a device for checking the work. So we can say that the internal check and also the internal audit comes under the internal control. Okay, so this is about the internal audit. Thank you.